I had to start over because this stuff was a little compromising for YouTube. I don't want that to show up. Yeah, he's always McCree. We'll talk about that another time. But yeah, Nick Cassidy is a good middle ground if everybody doesn't have a problem with both names. So getting back, I again had to start this over. So this is a Diamond 5 lobby by the looks of it, and playing McCree and Junkrat on Paraiso, as we can see, based on the wall in front of us. So Orisa was playing, really, keep notes. Orisa kept blaming you for the whole thing, calling everyone bad, being toxic, and it's basically a 4v6. That's the finer details of the match. Let's see if they're right. They're probably not. Let's be honest though. When you have a toxic teammate, they're never right, regardless of who they're being toxic to. They may have some kind of a basis for it, but yeah.
Attackers incoming. Defend objective A. Initiating combat. I've got men.
So now I can tell the difference between PC and console because this is a lot easier to keep up with. So you're actually doing really well right now as far as positioning. The only critique I would make for the beginning portion of this map, you would definitely benefit better to either be with your team on top of this high ground or take the off angle here with your that's Lifeweaver, right? Yeah, Lifeweaver. For two reasons. Number one, you have the range. Number two, being right here, what are you actually going to be able to get value from unless they pass the choke? So I'm not saying you have to be hyper aggressive, but you do need to consider, and this is something I cover, so it's not necessarily this circumstance, but if it does happen during the VOD, you'll know what I mean. What do you do between downtime? Do you stay in position? Do you wait for the team to come to you? What are you doing during the time that you're waiting? So we're right now at the beginning of the match. You had the 45 seconds to prepare, obviously, to walk from point to where you're going. So you can't always position as properly as you want. You're kind of in a rush, which is kind of like one of the things you need to, make more of a smooth habit, essentially. And essentially, positioning yourself properly before the start of anything, it's going to help you down the line. And this is not a bad position, it's just not as ideal as you could make it for McCree in getting your ideal value. Again, you have to wait for them to cross the choke and or push the top ground. So I would say next time try to either work with your team or come over to where your Lifeweaver is. You'll have better angles right there and it would be easier. You actually gave me a reason right here. I wanted to make sure they didn't Sombra or Genji dash through and I can snipe them. Well, again, that would be actually a good thing for two reasons. Well, it looks like they actually have Genji. They have Genji and Sombra anyway. But the reason I mention, either be with your team or be here is because if Sombra and Genji do dash through your team, you're all together. He's wasting a resource to get in between and then just do the typical thing. Hopefully, you guys are all smart enough to just let him back out. He wasted 2 resources to do, what, nothing? You still have high ground. Then, if you're back here, if he wastes his resources to get back here, your team is in prime position to just turn around real quick. And you're with your Lifeweaver. They have to pick one or the other, maybe not both. So you're next to your team, so... And again, you're in a prime vantage spot. If they press you, you can see them coming your direction, and you have cover. Another thing, too. If you're here, you have slightly less cover, because where do you go if they come up? You could drop down, but then you're forced to go into this little hideaway here. You're forced to go back to point. You're forced to go up the stairs. You're forced to go this way. You're kind of in a bad spot. Where are you right here? You can go down, sure, you got the stairs, you can come right back up. Or, you can go into this room. And then you could go out here back to point. Or you can go up here, back with your team. You have options. So the vantage point is very important. What do you do between team fights? This is not, again, bad positioning, but it's very limited, because now you have to wait for them to come to you, and what are you doing while waiting? So, how long is this match, by the way? 10 minutes? This will be fun. You know what's worse? I chipped my back tooth, and now I feel my tongue scraping it. So... Oh, there's the Sombra doing Sombra things. Good McDeck grenade. Your Life Weaver's the MVP, just saving your mercy right there. So, I'm going to mention one very big issue. Why are you here? I'm not going to... How do I word this? I don't want to make it seem like I'm crapping on you, is kind of what I'm trying to avoid. But seriously think, for 2 seconds, why are you at where you're at right now? You wanted to go back to your team, is what I'm assuming, and I'll let you answer that. Heat of the moment, saw the Orisa. Okay, yeah. There are times to die on point, there are times to not die on point. When you pay attention, let's just use pro matches, for example. When you notice that they usually say die on point, the reason that you die on point is because... usually it's like you want to stall the clock for some kind of a comeback, if there is one possible. Like, if there's an opportunity for a comeback, die on point, buy us time, die on point. And that eventually evolved into, like, a landslide of everybody abusing it like, oh, you just need to die on point. And, there's times you do that, there's times you don't. Like, if you're gonna die, die anyway, but it doesn't matter. So, keeping the high ground. Let's hypothetically, like, I see that Sombra's right here. But hypothetically speaking, let's say that you didn't drop down from your position and you stayed up here. What are they forced to do? Sombra's forced to contest you and reveal her position, and or either get you, in which case you're back to square one, or you push her back, or you kill her. Even better. But you're now back here. They can't afford to push the point and not look behind them. Sigma might have to force his barrier on you to make sure that the back is covered, in which case, roll. Oh, look at that. Look at that. I'm now able to just shoot their entire back line. They think they're so smart. But all I do is roll, and I get to get out of the range of barrier. I'm not, by the way, mocking you. I'm doing this in general on their part. Small brain. Could have done a lot getting this point today. Yeah, I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm mocking you. So, I will quickly emphasize this, and I will emphasize this in future VODs. If it ever sounds like I'm being condescending, or if I'm being like, why did you do this? I'm not being condescending, but I do want you to think. And it's working wonders for me. I hope it's working wonders for everybody. But if I point out a critique like, why are you positioned where you are? Not condescending, but think. Literally, why did you make the decision you did? So, this isn't baffling. It's just more like you had your options. And like you said, it was heat of the moment. So, it's kind of like the better way I could... articulate this is the way that Spilo basically said it. Your goal is to reduce the amount of mistakes you make and force the amount of mistakes your enemies make. So when you like you don't want to. You want to train yourself to think in the heat of the moment, so that way you don't. So that way you don't make those mistakes during the game. Like, you don't want to overthink, but you don't want to also dead brain the entire thing. So by taking the high ground here, in the heat of the moment, you just reduced mistakes because now you're in the right position and you could probably force out their Sombra from now doing what you're trying to do, because now she gets to run up here uncontested and shoot from the high ground while your team is basically going for the choke. Okay, so you're looking for DPS advice. Yeah, so, yeah, that's probably explaining a little bit. You're either exercising the tank or support, it doesn't really matter which, mentality of sticking with your team when things get hot, because that's the actual answer for both. You benefit from playing with your team because the supports rely on tanks to keep them protected, because their kits are made to enable your team and disable the enemy team, or to upkeep your team. Whereas tanks are made for the brawl. It's a match made in heaven. DPS can kind of survive a little bit on their own with certain extensive abilities, so you probably had that mentality right there. I wouldn't doubt it. I know I've had DPS mentality while playing support and tank when I do it, so I can be shot too. But when you're playing, like, just basically put, it's not that you need to divide from your team, you need to split off a bit. And being split off a bit, I don't mean like be away from your team completely, but by taking this high ground and pincering them, you have a means of helping yourself survive by getting out of the angle of crossfire, maneuvering around, maybe even jumping up here, and they're either forced to focus you, or they're forced to focus your team. Which one's the bigger threat? So, unfortunately, that didn't obviously work out for you. I again have to apologize. I feel my tooth grinding against my tongue. It kind of hurts a little bit. Your Life Weaver is honestly a lifesaver, and that's not even a joke. Your Mercy goes for a res. She finishes the res and then gets pulled back out, thus keeping her alive, but it looks like it kind of failed this time because of the whole shooting at a distance thing. Oh no! He didn't he pulled the wrong one! He screwed your Mercy. Never mind. Never mind. Ah, boy. Dude. You have Symmetra now. So Symmetra's doing... Your Symmetra's doing a good thing. Doing what you could have done in that prior area. She's splitting off on the Sigma. Honestly, I think that she should secure this hallway, although her teleporter's obviously in a good spot. Honestly, she's doing too bad, but I think that she could stand to not take the high ground and let you do that. Because you would benefit it a little bit better than her. No. Well, first off, I know which one you're talking about now. You saw... Bro! Bro! It screwed you! Because it removed her from existence. Bro, it's a single frame. I actually feel bad. I actually feel bad.
Stick with it.
First off, excellent job. He should be embarrassed. I actually felt great watching that. Then Sigma just... I ain't got ammo, but I got my fists. Yeah, no, they're just pushing through your team here. It was a wash. Oh, is this the part? You said there was something. Hold on a minute. Kept blaming this for the whole thing. Kept calling me back. You did mention this prior. Did the moment happen already with the Okay, then okay, I was just about to ask about it. Yeah.
Heroes never die.
We're watching for Sombra, I see that.
Meet your fate.
You did waste 2 ults to get that, but I'm not even going to complain. I don't think there's really much you can do in that situation but use your ults. I mean, let's be honest. They got 2 kills out of it.
Ice wall coming up.
Okay, good, good. Good shots. Bro.
Join me.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
Okay, I'm not even gonna lie, that's actually... That hurt my soul a little bit. Okay, so... This is an objective shooter. People need to remember that. It's a very important detail. You do not win by getting more eliminations, because you could theoretically get less eliminations. In fact, actually, I watched it earlier today that there was a team on OWCS that won with less eliminations than the other team. And half the in fact, actually, half the elims and half the damage they won. About half. About half. They won. You could theoretically have less eliminations and still win because you played the objective. Literally all of you, but 2, abandoned the point. And so Sombra, and it looks like Genji? Yeah, Sombra and Genji have a field day with your bat. Wait, is that Genji or is that Moira? It's Genji, and that's okay. Yeah, they just had a field day with this. Let me read what you mentioned. She pushes all the way up to first point spawn. Decided I didn't want her to die. I mean, this is a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation that you have to really weigh your options. She pushes all the way back to first point spawn. So now you must ask yourself the question, if your tank goes out of position, do you join your tank? And if so, when does the reasonable distance than which you follow them stop becoming reasonable? Because if they are about to cap the point, and she goes all the way to the front spawn, it's reasonable for, let's say, oh, I'll follow her maybe up to here, or I'll probably come up here so that I'm still within distance and I can overlook the point and give her some kind of support, or I can come over here for an off angle. Like, even that might be too far. But maybe just look for some high ground, come up here, and maybe take this high ground up here in this window. And that's as much as you follow her. To follow her all the way here is about a good 7 seconds distance that now you have to run back. So if she's going to die like an idiot, I hate to say this because yes, you need to work as a unit. Yes, you need to, stick with each other and not die needlessly. But if you're going to let one person die needlessly, let it be one person to die needlessly. All of you do not need to die needlessly. And by sticking with her all the way through, I get the mentality. I know it was a struggle. It's, again, a damned if you do, damned if you don't. That, again, yes, the healer mindset. You need to stick with your tank. And, again, DPS need to do the same thing. But DPS have different kits that are not made for the upkeep of a team, and thus you don't need to stick with them strictly in the sense of you need to support your team through a means in which you do not have. So again, when does reasonably following her, stop becoming reasonable? The moment she reaches that, it's already too far. But if you were to follow her to the crux right here and be like, hey, I'm going to take this high ground up here and then take this window to support her, I could come over here. And then the moment you notice you're back capping, roll back, you got immediately a view, and you can kind of like get back into point a lot easier, but now you're kind of all the way there. And that is an additional 7-second run, estimated, of course. It could be an extra 5 seconds, might be 3, but it's still time that you have to run back. And your tank, safe to say, is the reason why this back cap happened. But it's also not just her fault. It is technically the fault of anybody that followed her. Lesson to be learned. If your teammate's going to be an idiot, let them be an idiot. You cannot control the outcome of their decision making and what they do, if they want to be toxic, if they want to be a team player. Yeah, and again, it's the future. Again, the point of coaching is that you just think about these things. You have the benefit now of hindsight. You observe it. When I ask these questions again, what could you have done differently? It's not to berate you. It's to make you think. If this situation happens again, like you just said, lesson learned. You're now going to stick closer to cart because playing cart is going to be the right decision to make. Wow. Yeah, I'm going to admit right now, your Orisa is the one who incited the direct incorrect play by pushing too far forward. That was just ridiculous. But again, you're not completely faultless yourself because you followed. So again, future lesson, obviously. Honestly, I kind of like personally myself, I'm paranoid to making major mistakes. So like, for instance, let me give an example. My paranoia falls into line of something like, if I deem it important enough, it requires my full attention and I'm dedicated to it. When it comes to this game, yes, the team play is important, winning team fights is important, getting elims is important, but so is playing the objective. If I'm not on the objective or near the objective or able to get to the objective in a quick amount of time, I'm badly positioned. And because I've rooted that in my mind as something that I need to address for myself, bam, it is now something I'm doing. So I'll give you a real world example now. I used to work Radio Shack. It's a sentence that creates 1,000 stories. So I used to work Radio Shack. We worked Black Friday. I liked working Radio Shack, but I didn't like the sales aspect of how they tried to like push me for things I didn't like. But we were working Black Friday. Crux of literally everything that I like and hate. I had a long shift for the first time ever. I was new to it. And I fell asleep. I don't know for how long specifically. It might have been like a split second. Might have actually been for like 10 seconds. Might have been for like 20. I don't know. I fell asleep in the back. My coworker came and woke me up, and I'm like, was I asleep? And he's like, yep, you were. I'm getting up, and now I was super paranoid and never fell asleep for the rest of the shift. So now you have this rooted in your mind of paranoia, like, oh, this happened like in the most extreme circumstance. I can't let it happen again. It happens to pro players too. Why they still allow back caps in higher ranks, I guess they're just so hyper-focused on trying to win team fights and everything that it's like team fights equal wins. I don't know their mental state. I don't know their mental thought process. Whatever it is. Oh, no. You're not being defensive at all. Yeah, no, I want you to share it. This is the only way I can help you. And this is the only way I can give you a different perspective. Again, I'm not trying to berate you. I want you to actually take what I'm saying and don't see it as criticism or critique. See it as I'm offering you the time and benefit of hindsight. What could you have done differently? Because if you could think, then you'd implement it next match. And if not next match, the next match after that. You just keep running it through your process. I don't know what your Mercy's doing, but I'll go back into the beginning of what I said at the start. What do you do between team fights? And what should you be doing between team fights is a kind of a better question. So, being right back here, you're not in a prime position to do much. Truth be told, there really is no good position at the minute because your team's not pushed with you. So taking advantageous high ground over here is not recommended because you're just going to run into the enemy team by yourself, essentially. Versus if your team's not doing it, take the next best high position right here, force the resources to come get you. I host VOD reviews. I try to do it as often as possible, but I've also been sacrificing a lot of playtime to do that. I'm still trying to find a balance. But I'm going to do another VOD review on Monday. I'm going to take it slow. I talked about it earlier as to the reasons why. I'll talk about it after I'm done recording. But, yeah. What do you do between team fights? Take advantageous positioning. You can't go forward because your team's not going forward with you. So, if your team's not going with you, do yourself the favor and position properly and get up to a good spot. Yeah, your team... It doesn't look like your Orissa's the only one throwing. I have no idea what's happening with your support line, but both of them went AFK.
No time to waste.
I guess you're all just typing in chat or something.
Apagando las luces.
Yeah, they went back. Nobody's going to contest.
Is approaching its destination.
Das Universum singt vor mir!
Meet your fate.
Round one.
And here's the Junkrat. So, before I even continue on this needs to be its own dedicated video. I think I've already talked about it before. But the illusion of control, even if we don't realize it, is extremely strong in a lot of areas of our life. We want to be able to control everything. We want it to go our way. We want it to go perfect. But here's the issue. You have an Orisa that's being toxic. You have an Orisa that's doing really bad things, and look at what it's cascading into. It's cascading into everybody stopping in the middle of the play floor in the team fight to text in their chat and say, hey, Arissa, you're being a jerk. And then it's just a round and round and round and round cycle of toxic chat back and forth. By letting go of the illusion of control, you cannot control the toxicity of your teammates. You cannot control their positioning. You cannot control their decision making. You cannot control the hero that they pick. You can ask, you can work, you can coordinate, you can work with each other. But if you are unable to, then the only real answer to that is in the form of a question: how do you respond? So you just said 2 seconds ago, and again, this is to get you to think, you decided before round 2 that you lost. So there have been instances of like one-sided matchups swinging in reverse and showing basically that even in the most dire of circumstances, there's always a way. And even still, if there is a possibility for victory, you should be taking every opportunity that you can get. So, by that sentence alone, it determines the mindset that you had. Yeah, so, but this is the power of the subconscious that a lot of people don't realize, and I've been learning this myself. And again, I hope that this was like your third loss at 1-8. Yeah, so, but here's a subconscious thought. The moment that you verbally or thought in your inner voice, in your thought process, think we've lost, you've lost at that moment. It's not that you should be thinking, we lost, there's nothing I could do. In fact, actually, do I have that note right here somewhere? I do. So I have 2 notes that I had on my screen at some point. So when you're in a loss, or when you're in a situation that you feel like you can't do anymore, it's like, my toxic teammate, we're just getting wiped after wipe. We can't win a single team fight. They keep team killing us. We keep hearing the horn and team kill, and it's like, we can't do anything. Your mindset shouldn't be, are you doing your best? Your mindset, the question on your mind shouldn't, not the mindset, excuse me. The question on your mind is, are you doing your best? Your question should be, am I doing what it takes? And the reason that you flip that switch is because when you think, am I doing my best, you immediately set yourself a limit. That your ceiling is the 100% no matter where you set that bar. In your mind, when you say, I'm doing my best, your best is a bar. And if you do your best, and if you're doing your best, that's the bar you hit. Whereas, am I doing what it takes? You've opened up the bar to literally be anywhere, but it's unknown. And because it's unknown, the bar becomes the circumstance that you're facing. So now, again, I ask you, are you doing your best or are you doing what it takes? So if you can, and this is where you have to be honest with yourself, if you are doing what it takes to win, you're making the hero swaps, you're playing your hero, you're counter swapping, don't pay attention to your teammates and what they do. If they're doing their job, great. If they're not doing their job, great. What are you doing? The question to yourself, am I doing what it takes? If in good consciousness, you can tell yourself, in good conscience, if in good conscience you could look at yourself and say, I am doing what it takes, and then in response to that question, excellent. Let it be what it is. Because guess what? Next match you play, you'll be fine. Just let it happen. If you're playing to improve, that's the best mindset to have. You'll climb. You'll win the next one, or maybe the next one, or maybe the next one after that. Who knows? Now you're being honest with yourself. You recognize when you start to fall apart. This comes into the point of, as Mr. Spiegel said, whatever happens, happens. Okay. But that's also a good mindset to have, because you're now satisfied with the outcome no matter what. It's kind of like tricking your brain into thinking more positively so that you don't tilt. If you reduce your tilt, you realize that you feel better no matter if you win or lose, and that when the wins happen, it's a great feeling. And when you lose, you don't lose that great feeling. You're tricking your brain into kind of doing these things. Ask yourself the right questions, respond the right way. So when you're having this moment of a toxic teammate throwing your match and it's like, I can't do more, don't let that be the, I'm doing my best and I can't overcome this obstacle. It's, you're doing what it takes, you're doing your job. That's all you can do. And guess what? The next match, you're most likely not going to have them. Go ahead and block them, if that makes you feel better. But you're never always going to have that. Yes, you'll have a toxic teammate every once in a while. You might have it every match at your worst. But you're not going to have it the lifetime you play the game. So why are you going to let the one game where you get a toxic teammate that threw your one match affect the rest of your gameplay? Hey, this is the benefit of hindsight. So now you're recognizing, hey, maybe Sombra could have worked. So next time you run into a situation like this, where that's the team that you're facing up against, okay, maybe I'll do something different. You have the benefit of hindsight. That's the purpose of VOD reviews. Now you look at it and you learn from it. You learn what might work better in different situations. I was about to say situations. Excuse me. But yeah, let's continue. Let's finish this match. How many minutes do you have? 4 minutes?
Defend objective A.
Oh my god, it's the 4 minutes. You don't even go overtime. Oh, wow. Yeah. Good thing you dodged the rock. I see what you were trying to do. Sombra just got wrecked. I mean, just to pause here for a second, that's where the team engagement is. What the Baptiste and the Genji are doing getting on the bus is probably what you should have done, because now you can bypass his shield. Unless he shields you, then you just go back down, and if he brings it back down, you go back up. You have that vertical mobility. I would be utilizing it a little bit more. Yeah, this is a tough situation. The discombobulation of your team, and yes, that is actually the right word for it. Oh my goodness. The discombobulation of your team and its communication, you guys are just beating your heads against a brick wall. And the brick wall being the enemy team. Yeah. There's really nothing you could do there. There's nothing you could do. Like, you could have taken the high ground. It might have benefited your team, but... I will address this because I addressed it earlier with Leonardo's clip. Leonardo being another viewer that gives me a bunch of these VODs. But I did notice something. You're doing the same thing he did with Widowmaker. You're using your concussion mines to get leverage. You're using it to get advantageous positioning. Now, normally I would do the same thing, but I try to strategically spread them out so I still have something in my pocket. You used both, and this is how far you're out of the spawn. I mean, I don't know if you're actually trying to go for the top of the building. If you were, then that might be one thing, but now you learn that you can't go up there. You kind of did the same thing he did, and he would use his grappling hook on Widow to get out of spawn a little bit late, and now he doesn't have a cooldown. And then we look at you, and you have 3 seconds until your next mine. Yeah, lob. That's pretty much what every Junkrat does anyway. But you're not fair. Because you're not going to be able to maintain vertical mobility, you're going to fall. So when you gain that advantageous angle, you're going to lose it very quickly. So what you should be doing, and I make this mistake because I'm not a Junkrat player, but I know I've done it myself, so you're not alone on this. What you should be doing is looking for the opportunity to jump and get that vertical mobility, and then keep a vertical angle. So when you came over here the first time, or like I was saying, go between the bus and going down. Even if it wasn't much more vertical mobility, it was still something. And then even still further, with the enemy team on the floor and your team still pushing, you might have even been able to take here and just get them from the back, splitting their attention once again. So vertical mobility is not the issue, and the lobs from the sky, also good, but it's kind of thinking one step beyond what you're doing. So now you have no mines. Now you're just beating your head against the wall yet again. I can see trying to cause a little bit of confusion could be something too, but yeah, that's not doing anything to break their resolve. They know they got this one.
My apologies.
Flats. I'll talk about him after the VOD review. We'll just have random banter. I'm not fried as of yet, but the VOD review is definitely something I'm going to need a break from after this. Oh, they have their own Junkrat. Good elimination. It was a risk. Ah, you went into his trap too. Ah, that's what happened. Okay. Unfortunate, but it happens. But guess what? You have ult advantage and spawn advantage. Don't use it here, please. Don't use it here. Don't use it here. Are you going to use it here? Please tell me you don't use it here. Ah. Well, going back, if we examine what happened, you went up and you got the elimination, and then you went backward. I don't know if you were forced backward, pulled backward, or if you went backward of your own accord. I would have pushed forward. I mean, either way, it looks like they're coming your direction, so I don't think that it was anything that you could do to control that. But in pushing forward, you're now in the crevice, forcing them to either push forward to come get you and rotate along with you. Okay, the Moira pushed you back. Okay, so that's not your issue. However, I will duly note, I just saw this. You're standing still in lobby. Oh, okay, so you went back of your own accord because Moira showed up. Yeah, that's what I would have said about pushing forward, because you would have just been behind a wall. What was she going to be able to do? Push forward on you? You could burst her down pretty quickly. Ah, okay. That explains a lot.
They outnumber us. Careful.
You know, this is coming from a former troll, because I like to be passive-aggressive and goat people on from time to time just for fun. Don't troll a troll. And in fact, don't even fuel the troll by responding. If he's being toxic, let him be toxic. Report him after the match. Do what you need to. Don't respond. Future lesson for you. It's a waste of your time. He's not going to learn a lesson from it. You're not going to gain anything from it. It's not worth your peace. If someone's honestly hard trolling you, hard, like, slurring, I don't know. The point is just don't do it. Just don't do it. Because look at what it's doing to your gameplay, too. Ah. Yeah, that doesn't help. And now they all have their ults, but I don't think that they need to use them at this point. None of you have made it outside of spawn door very far. Yeah.
Heroes never die.
Yeah, it's quite obvious at this moment that the Orisa basically dissolved the entire framework of your team. Like, there was just no way any of you were going to be coordinated enough to even do more. All Orisa could do is type. And then she dies. Yeah, at this point, your mentality should be, it's a lost match. Okay, I'll go next time. Again, this one you mentioned the timing was like 1 a.m., your third lost match, so at that point, I would have just been done and been like, yeah, that's my last match. I'm not doing anything more for today. Don't let it end your frustration. Don't rage or anything, obviously. I wouldn't, again, go to Dawn. I would have just let her continue typing, and then it's basically more evidence for this. If you didn't report the Orisa, do that now. But I don't have the comms, so I wouldn't know. I would report her for you, too, if I could. But, I might be able to. I'll look that up. I'll see what I can do. But, in any case, at this point, your mental state shouldn't be like, oh, I can't do any more. Your mental state should be, okay, this is a lost match. Okay, this is a lost match. I'll just get it next time.
Enemy in my sights.
And now they're spawn camping, you can't get out, no one's doing anything. Yeah, there it is. I didn't even realize there was only like 3 seconds left. I thought I had like another 10. So yeah. As far as critiques go, you weren't doing too bad with your aim. You weren't doing too bad with your responses. I don't rage at this game anymore because it's such a waste of energy. True, that too. I was just more wowed. Oh my lord. Wait, you had them specifically for 3 games in a row? Or just that you were paired with bad teammates 3 times in a row? Just to make sure I understand that correctly. Okay. I was about to say, if you were paired with them 3 times in a row, I think I found your defining factor as to why Orisa's blaming you. Okay, let's put all jokes aside for a second. So, critique of it, you were very good with your reaction, your game sense, your awareness. You were doing really good looking behind you for Sombra, so you were keeping good track. Your aim looked pretty good to me, so no issues there. But I will say, on top of avoiding back and forth trolling, do yourself the favor of trying to look for more advantageous positioning. And on top of looking for more advantageous positioning, look to what you can do between team fights. Those would be the 2 things I'd recommend you try to look at improving. Like, when you have downtime between a team fight, like you get a team wipe on the enemy. Okay, what am I going to do right now? Where am I going to position myself right now? Get into there. Even if you just barely make it, or if you make it late, do it. I'll catch up on the comments in a section, but that's pretty much it. Try to look for more advantageous positioning, and I think you'll do fine. Honestly, you didn't look too shabby, but it's, a learning curve for a lot of different things. And yeah, that's pretty much it.